Hello, everyone. Peter Dennis here. Today, my guest is Christy Clark. Christy is a channeler who I met on the Hukalo gathering. You may or may not have heard of it, but Christy's a channeler. He channels Renturus Vella Antorus. Um, we will likely be calling him Renturus. Anyway, Christy, welcome. Good to have you here.
Peter, nice to meet you again. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward, and so is Renturus, to connecting with you more in this way.
Good. Well, Christy, I think a lot of people are curious about channelers and possibly have the idea that channelers have to be always kind of sitting in the lotus position, chanting and doing these sort of spiritual things. But in my experience, channelers are pretty ordinary people. They come from all walks of life. So I was wondering if you'd just spend a few minutes and let us know a little about your background, maybe where you grew up, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, certainly, Peter. Yeah, I was born and raised in Dublin, and yeah, I spent most of my life just being the child, really. I had no interest at all in the paranormal at that stage. When I reflect back, as I was a teenager, I was exploring different literature that was available to me if I came across it, and that was very, very seldom. There was one, person that I had an interest in, and that was Nostradamus, and I was fascinated by his information that he gave to humanity and his predictions. I think that was more or less coming from fear. Why I kept sort of reading his material. But I just carried on as normal. I had no interest whatsoever in extraterrestrials, UFOs. As I got that bit older, and I started seeing some programs on the TV, I more or less became more interested in what you would call paranormal. I was quite young. I didn't spend too much time really focusing on it. I was more distracted with life as a child, as a teenager, as a young person. And that basically took me right through, really, right up to, I'd say, my young adult years, really. And I was quite active, really. I used to keep horses. I know this is off the subject, but I spent most of my life connecting with horses. I had a relationship with that animal. It was quite amazing, and horses were in my life, of course, with everybody else. But I always went back to the horses because there was a connection between two of us that I couldn't really explain and understand at the time. And really, that took me up really to my adult years, really, and I was more or less drawn to the idea of unidentified flying objects. And again, I had access then to the internet. I started exploring it. I started listening to a few people that I was drawn to online. Um, One of them would have been Alex Collier, which I spent basically over 30 years, more or less, just more or less using him as a mentor, really. I know he shared a lot of his experience with the Andromedans and Morinay, but he more or less opened the door for me, and I began to realize that, yeah, I had a connection, but I didn't understand it, couldn't really explain it. I didn't believe anything was happening to me really at the time. As regards to my relationship with Renturus, it had been happening from the time I came into this reality, but I wasn't open up. I wasn't in that frequency or vibration. Basically, it opened up completely when I found Hulico, which is a show you were a guest on, Peter. And I met Jim Charles, and that was around 2012. So I watched Jim Charles channeling these extraterrestrial beings, and I was fascinated and blown away by it. Like, so I became part of Huluko, and I watched Jim on a week-to-week basis, and I had a few sessions with Jim, and we developed a relationship. And in the early stages, Jim explained to me that there was a being here that has always been with you, and he's here at the moment, and his name is Kin, Kin. Like, that's great. I'd love to meet Kin. So Jim brought Kin forward in a channeling session, and he introduced himself as Kin and explained our relationship and who he was to me, as regards to how he met me. I asked a few questions, of course, and I asked really, why me, of course? Like, well, he says, we know each other a long time, and we know each other at this stage about 6,500 years. So that really was quite interesting. He did share with me a lot that had been happening to me on this planet. And so I thought that was quite interesting as well as regards to my relationship with other extraterrestrial beings. But he was more or less my main guide. And so I brought Ken in maybe once a month, through Jim Charles. And but in the meantime, I experienced other different channelers around the world. And my mind was always questioning the whole idea of conscious channeling. I was trying to understand what happens, what takes place, or whatever. Like, so I went to different channelers and I had sessions with them. Daniel Scranton was one of them. Jackie Slavita was another lady in the US. There was a few different channelers that I focused on, but I went back to Jim, and I stayed with Jim, and I'm still good friends with Jim. So basically, Ken took me right up, really, up to a point where he had said to me, there's information you need to know, really, and it's our relationship really goes much further, like, and he basically explained in that I know how I have given you the name Kin, but he says that my real name is Renturus Vella Antorus. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. So I asked, why did you give me Kin, of course? Well, he said, Kin is family. And he says, you are me on earth having a human experience. I am your higher self. So he kept that away from me for about maybe, I'd say about 6 years. He said the reason we held back was because we were working with you in many different ways. He did ask me a question after Jim introduced him first. I think I was connecting with him for about 2 years, and 2, 3 years maybe. And he asked me one question, and that was I ready to continue? And I said, continue what? Well, he said, we want to allow you to understand that if you agree, and you don't have to, it's entirely up to yourself. This is your incarnation on earth. You have free will, but you agreed before you came into the physical that I would come back into your life at a certain point. So I agreed, and that was basically it. And things started to change then, Peter, in many ways. But he kept telling me all the time that I was going to channel, but I had great doubt behind that because I didn't believe I could. He says, you're a natural channel. It was something that you agreed on before you came into the physical. And I says, yeah, okay, I'll go with that. So he took me right up to around 280 and gave me his full name, Renturus Vella Antorus, and explained who I was and where we came from, which was Antares in the Scorpion constellation. That is my basically home. And I've had many different incarnations within that 6,500 years. And so my focus was more or less on my channeling, and I would have had some difficulty in the early years, of course, because my doubting mind would not allow me to believe that it was actually happening. And I had great support from Jim Charles, and I had great support from Renturus, and basically it was just me more or less trying to focus on that idea of me becoming a channel. And I done that, and And that continued from more or less, I'd say around 217, 218, when he says that we would like to connect with you in that way, even though I can come to you through Jim Charles, but we have plans, and there's other beings that are connecting with you that you're not aware of, have plans, like, and he gave me a few names, and these were there was a being from Antares, and there was a being from the Elishandoi, and there was actually a fairy called Trina that came into my life as well. So, but as I said, the main focus was Renturus. So I just continued to put my mind in that area, and I began to practice. I was practicing with other people, and I was bringing Renturus in again through Jim Charles for updates, things like that. And he said everything is going according to plan. There's no need to question it. Just continue to practice. Your channeling is becoming more. It's becoming better, and you may not feel it, but we can see it. And so that basically just rolled on, really, Peter, and it took me up to the point where he had, and still does, gives me wonderful updates on my channeling. Um, I think the turning point for me with the channeling was because I didn't believe what was happening. My mind was always questioning. He advised me to get a camera, and I shared this on my webpage. So I got a camera and I started taking photographs, and these beings and orbs start appearing in the photographs I was taking. I don't believe I was taking the photographs. I think they were in control of the camera and still are up to now. So I was seeing all these beautiful images, and I was taking them back to Renturus, and he was saying, yeah, there's different beings coming forward to you to allow you to understand what is happening. They're supporting you also, like, So that continued to play up to a point where family members who passed over start appearing in the photographs. And that was really interesting. Then they didn't just start appearing in the photographs that I was taken, say, into the backyard where I live, or the forest I used to go to. They start appearing in my eye. This is really strange. I might have shared this with you on our last call, but they were coming in through my eye, and yeah, family members start appearing in my eye that had passed over, and in my both eyes, and then they start appearing in the garden. Family members would appear on special occasions and things like that, and so this just continued, and Renturus wasn't taken back at all by this, and he just said yes. He said, "This is what's happening, and you seem to be enjoying yourself." And I am actually enjoying myself. It just continues to get better on a day-to-day basis, and yeah, so that's about really where it's at, Peter. Rather than going into too much detail, I hope that sort of worked for you.
Well, you certainly gave us a pretty broad background, and so many parts of it that would be worth following up. And I can think of a number of questions I'd like to use to probe a little deeper. But in the interest of time, are you prepared to bring Renturus in now?
Yeah, no
Yep.
problem.
Well, please do, and I'll have a chat with him.
Okay, Peter. Excuse me, Peter, for yawning, but I normally do yawn when I'm going into the channel state, and it's
Okay.
something that I try to stop, but it just happens. So
Sure.
Yes, this is Renturus Vella Antorus. It is nice to connect with you, Peter, again.
Yes, it is. And thank you
Mm,
much for doing that. And welcome to our little, I don't know what this is, a program or a podcast, but a
yes,
presentation anyway.
yes, yes.
Now, I just learned
Mm,
today that you from the constellation Scorpio,
mm,
would you call it a star cluster, Antaurus, and
yes.
presumably planets around there. Can you describe kind of that solar system, your planet, that kind of thing?
Yes, well, our planet system is quite vast, and Antares in the Scorpion constellation, as Chris has described, again is a cluster of many different planets. But Chris's home base really is in that area, and it is a beautiful place, of course. It would be something similar to your planet. It would have much of what you see as regards to vegetation and forest, and we have rivers, of course, and yes, there is parts of it that is quite derelict, but the majority of it is quite beautiful, and it's his home base, and it's a place that he actually visits in astral. He may not be aware of that. I'm bringing this information to him now, but he has come back to Anturas to Greece. Many of the beings that he is aware of on that side of what you would call the solar system.
Mm-hmm. Then
Mm.
having a location and a physical planet, does that mean you are physical yourself?
Well, at this time, I am physical. Yes, I am on a ship at this time, but no, I can remain in energy, Peter, or I can take the physical body. Chris may not have shared this with you in his brief interview. I am a creator being,
Mhm.
and creator being is really, it's just, how would we explain this? It's just at a higher level, let's say, to what you would call the extraterrestrial being. There's many different races out there at this time that is coming forward. You are aware of these different races, and there's different dimensions. But I am a creator being, and I more or less connect, excuses, directly to God. And I would be viewed as a messenger for God. So I am a creator. I can manifest and I can create. I can create planets. I can actually create universes also.
Hmm.
So I have that potential. I
Wow.
won't go into too much detail, but I do spend a lot of the time in a physical body. I am working with many different races for various reasons. And but I can remain in the body, but I can also go back to just being energy.
Hmm. When you're in the body, I think our viewers would be very interested to have some feeling for what that body might look like. Can you describe maybe height, weight, whatever?
Yes, well, my body would be similar to Chris's body. And there is one particular race that I work closely with, and I am actually working with this race at this time. And um, they would have a body similar to yours. It is really not that much different. When I say I can take the physical body, I can manifest into a body, and that body is more or less. waiting for me. And when I say waiting for me, coming from energy into a physical body, sometimes it may be difficult for you to understand how that actually takes place. But I can manifest a body, and it would be, yes, similar to your actual body. As regards to weight, I would say I'm a little bit lighter than Chris, but his features would be much the same. I would have arms, I would have legs, of course, and my torso would be much the same. And yes.
Well, I suppose if you're a creator being capable of creating galaxies and such, you could create any kind of body you care to. Um,
Yes.
do you ever materialize on planet Earth in the guise of a human, so to speak, just wander
No.
among us?
Yes. No, Peter. I haven't been to planet Earth, yes. And I was aware that Chris was on Earth because it was one of the agreements that was made for this incarnation. But I haven't been to planet Earth, yes. But I communicate, as you see, through Chris.
Mhm.
We would have a lot of interaction in this type of connection, or I would come to him in his astral dreams. Um, I do appear to him. He does take photographs of me. These come in orbs. And in these orbs, he may see an image of a being. But we would not give him the full reflection of me. Uh, but um, but no, I haven't been down to Earth yet. I have been above the planet, okay, in my ship and in other ships with other races of beings, but being to Earth at this time hasn't happened yet.
Mhm. We use a construct that we call dimensions of consciousness, and we say that humans are in the third dimension of consciousness, moving through the fourth and getting to the fifth. Where would the creator beings be in that system?
Well, we can come down to that vibration just to a certain point. I am aware that the collective is moving forward and they're trying to shift to that next frequency, as you've said. But for us to connect to Christy, and for me to connect with Christy, I would drop my frequency, of course, down to a certain point to allow him to feel and sense my presence. That would not be in the physical. We would use energy to work with Chris. My energy is quite interesting, coming from the creator realm, so I can come down quite easily to this level. Um, I am a high vibrational being, being a creator being. I am high vibrational, and that can shift also. It's how would we say this? Um, it's not too awkward or difficult to explain, but it's more or less we are trying to give you that vision. And when I say we, I just want to make you aware, Peter, there is many beings here. I am communicating as Renturus Vella Antorus, but there is other energies here also that is here just more or less observing and have an interest in what is happening between you and Chris and me. But on a vibrational level, yes, I can shift. And I shift, I won't say all the time on a day-to-day basis, but my energy can shift quite easily, being part of the creator realm.
Mhm. I get the impression that the creator beings are, in a simple sense, kind of God's lieutenants and or lieutenants, and
Yes.
you pretty well execute God's wishes in a sense. Is it somewhat like that?
Yes, that is a good way of explaining it. Um, I also like to have the experience in a physical body. The reason I say this is I am from the creator realm, and there is that work that has to be carried out through me to many different races, not just your planet, the race on your planet. I work with many different races, and it's more or less working off the same script, we would say. My message again is more or less the same, and it's again when you speak about your planet shifting from third to fourth and hopefully reaching fifth, you are aware that the shift is happening also in the universe. It's not just on your planet. So it's interesting really to observe how this works and how you view it yourself. So it's a constant flow, Peter, of vibration and frequency.
Mhm. Well, here you are, a creator being with the capability of creating a new galaxy, but you're working with Chris. What is the
Well,
in that?
sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I'm wondering what is your purpose in working with Christy?
Well, again, Chris has had many incarnations on Earth, as he has explained. We know each other a long time, and in that period of time, he has had many incarnations on Earth. And he has been aware of our connection in previous incarnations. In this one, he was only aware up to the point that he described when he came across his interest in what you would call extraterrestrials, the paranormal. We were working with him at that time. He was not aware of it. Um, we were observing him on Earth, and I was observing him closely. There was other beings also involved for other reasons. But we allowed him to continue really his experience on Earth. And we basically took him to the point, as he explained to you, that he found an interest in the paranormal, in what you would call extraterrestrial beings, UFOs, and things like that. We took him to Jim Charles, not by hand or by the hand, sorry. We introduced him to Jim Charles, and he found Jim, and the story really opened up from there. Um, I came through as kin first, and I gave him as much information that I could. I was restricted also, even though I have the power as a creator being, because of Chris's free will on Earth. I was more or less restricted on what I could say and the information that I'd give him. But I gave him enough information to keep him focused, and this allowed Chris to come back at different times. Most of the time through Channel or Jim Charles, and there was other channels that he worked with also. But my message was just more or less introducing myself and building that relationship with Chris and allowing to sense and feel who I was. This did happen. It took some time because there was a lot more involved with Chris when he came to Earth. And I shared that with Chris also. This was something that he was not aware of. So the relationship basically opened up at that point, and that took us through to where we are now. But in that, really, we're going back a few years. I shared with Chris really how we had worked together. Him not being aware of it sometimes is quite unusual. Our connection, my connection to him not being aware of it was quite unusual. So it's really interesting, really, for us to be able to sit here and give you this information. As he has said, we have got to the point where I came to Chris as kin. I told him what our mission was on Earth. I told him what his mission was and continues to be on Earth, and explained that I would be working through him, and there would be different extraterrestrials working with him also. I took him to a point really where I felt he was ready for more information as regarding our connection. I got approval for that also, and I explained really who I was, and gave him my name as Renturus Vella Antorus, seer of the sky, guardian of all. And he was quite taken back by that. So I explained that kin was just something that was simple. We gave him that name in the first place, and we took him up to a point where we felt he was ready. And giving him that information really on our connection was quite interesting because he was quite relaxed. He was quite casual when he got that download. And we more or less fed him that information over a period of time. And that took us really up to where we are now, Peter. And um, I worked through Chris, as he may have explained to you. So, as Chris's role on Earth as we speak, he has as a family man with some children. I connect through Chris all the time. I'm with him all the time. There's not just a point where I come to Chris and I allow him to sense and feel me, but there is a time where I do stand back and I allow him to draw me in, which he does. And when that happens, yeah, I work through him in various ways. You are aware of Chris's background as regards to his training and things like that in psychotherapy. So I work with clients. I work with Chris. I work with friends. I work with family. I work with anyone that comes into Chris's life. I will connect with, and the relationship will open up.
Is that the main thrust of Chris's purpose on Earth at this time, to work with individuals? Or do you see that expanding to possibly presenting to groups, writing books, anything like that?
Yes. Well, it's interesting that you raise those points, Peter. We have suggested to Chris that he document anything he feels is necessary. Most of all, we don't want to put pressure on Chris. We have pointed this out to him in the past. This will go at his pace. When I say his pace, there's no really hurry here. Chris did point out to us on a few occasions, and the question was, what will he do with all this information, and where does he go with it? And my response and their response was, there's nothing really you need to do. You will have an audience, people will come to you. If you want to expand on that, which you will when your channeling abilities open up, then you will cater for a larger audience, and people will understand and they will be drawn to you. And as regards to writing, we have suggested that to Chris also. You know, the information we have given him, there is definitely a book there to be wrote. Again, Chris has thought of this. He has wrote some information down regarding our relationship, and that is still there in the background as an option if he chose to go there. But I think the main issue here that needs to be raised is that I'm coming through Chris at this time because of, you touched on this yourself, Peter, in your question earlier on, as regards to Earth itself and the collective movement from one dimension to another. So what happens on Earth is really playing a big part in the universe, really. And really, we are here to support. I am here to support Chris. There's many different races that are here at the moment supporting much of the collective on your planet at this time. These are all agreements. Well, most of them are agreements that were put in place before the human came into the physical body on Earth. So we are here to help with that transition. You are aware at the moment of the situation on Earth and how that is moving. It is moving, okay, and there is much and many of you becoming more aware of who we are. But for me personally, yes, I will continue to work through Chris in that way to give that message to an individual really regarding their own essence, more or less, their own background, really, their own mission on Earth. That will only come forward if the individual is ready to receive us. Chris is quite interesting on how he works, not just in his professional field, but if he sees the opportunity, he will take us. He will expand on that. I become aware, of course, because I am in the background always, and I will, of course, acquaint this human also in various ways. It doesn't have to be in the moment. I can connect with them also in the dream state, and the door more or less opens up at that point.
Are you working with any other humans at this time?
Yes, I am actually. It's interesting you raised that point, and we have brought this information to Chris only recently, we would say in the last 12 months. I am connecting at the moment with a child in Canada. And this child is quite young. I won't go into too much detail about this individual, but he's a young boy. And I am connecting with this boy at the moment. He's not aware of it. When I say not aware of it, in his dream state, he may be picking up my energy okay. But in the physical, he's not aware of it at this time. He is. He has been here before. This is one of many incarnations he has on Earth, but I have chosen this individual to work through him also. So there will be an aspect of me going through this child as well, similar to Chris. And that relationship will open up in a way similar to the relationship that I'm having with Chris. I say this because Chris, of course, like you all, will transition across. So really our plan is, again, my plan is to connect again with, of course, a human on Earth. And I have picked this human, this child, and that is in place at this time, Peter.
Well, I'm in Canada as well, and if there is an appropriate time where I can lend assistance to this individual, I'm happy to
Yes,
if I'm still around at the time he's
yes,
mature enough
yes.
or whatever.
Yes, well, again, that is one of the reasons that we give this information. I have given this information to Chris. It's interesting that you asked that question. That information was given to Chris only within the last 12 months. And he took it really well. Like we felt before we gave him that information that he might not understand really the whole aspect of me working through another human on Earth. But as I have explained, you are all going to transition across. So we want to keep that relationship open as much as possible. And we have picked this individual for that.
Mhm.
Mm.
From your perspective, I guess you've already commented a little bit about the ascension that humanity is undergoing. Um, if you were on a platform where you could communicate to all of humanity together, um, would you have a message for us about maybe how we can stay on that path or get on that path to ascension, to the fifth dimension?
Yes, it's a very interesting question again, Peter, and it's again something that continues to raise its to a point where we have to come forward more or less and give what we feel is necessary, not just in this answer that I'm about to give you, but we have been watching really the collective on your planet for some time now. You are aware of this because of your relationship also. And you see the struggle that we face. I don't like using that word struggle, but it is ongoing. And there's many reasons behind that. We won't go into too much detail at this time, but the majority of the collective really um, we would say, are not in tune to the idea that there is life off your planet in other realms. That is an ongoing issue, and we continue to work with governments, and that is ongoing also to um, allow governments to understand the reasons why we're here. We're here for many reasons. We are here to support the collective, but we're also here to support the planet itself, really. She is going through change as we speak, and there's so much going on your planet. From a vibrational level, really, it's important that we come forward and address that. Um, and that is why we are here. On an individual basis, yes, everybody has a choice when you come into what you call the container, the body, to have what you call this experience on Earth. Everyone has that choice and free will as to how that plays out. And I gave this information to Chris when I introduced myself to him first. I says, you are under no pressure whatsoever to continue connecting with me. You will continue to connect with me, but in this way, which would have been through a channel at the time. There is no pressure at all. If you want to continue your incarnation on Earth as what you would see as normal, that is perfectly okay also. But we are just making you aware of my connection to you and the reason I am coming forward to you at this time. And that was the way I approached Chris. For many of the other humans that we work with, that I have more or less um, supported also in various different ways. It's important, really, how this plays out. Each individual that we contact, a lot of the time, they are not aware, really. And Chris would have been one of these, would have been an example here. Another really wasn't aware at the time, really, as to our relationship and what it actually meant, until I went into some detail as regards to his location, our relationship, the depths of that relationship, the time we had spent together, the time we continued to be together. And so there was a lot of information there for Chris to take on. For a lot of people on your planet, this is something that they would struggle with, we feel, at this time. And this is one of the reasons why we continue to talk about disclosure in various different ways, and making people aware of our presence. Making people aware of our presence is really interesting, but making them aware of themselves sometimes is quite difficult because of the situation they have put themselves in as regarding to what they feel is their reasons on Earth. And a lot of people don't see that. Um, a lot of the humans that came in for a particular reason. The calling went out and they accepted the call and they came back in to help raise frequency and vibration on your planet. That continues to happen. To break it down really on an individual basis and get to each individual is not going to happen. Really, we will do our best to come forward. I will do my best to support Chris and walk through Chris to get to many. But there's a lot of humans on your planet that you would call to be in that sleep state. Um, we would not agree with that. We would see that there is much of a distraction down there on your planet that continues to play out for various reasons. We understand what is going on. We understand the relationship that your governments are having with different races, and some of them are positive and some of them are not positive. We understand that also. So again, it goes back to really, as I had said earlier, really the impact that your planet is having on the rest of the solar system is quite noticeable out here. You may not see it or you may not hear of it down there from your governments, but we can assure you that there is much of an impact coming from your planet in many ways. And we continue to observe and support that in the best way we can. But the bottom line here, Peter, is to take the collective and your planet really to the next level, as you say, of this awakening, and to join them up with their star family. And that is our goal, really, and that is my goal, really, to try to support and make that happen. And this is one of the reasons I am here now. This is one of the reasons I have chosen to come back to Chris and allow him to understand really what his purpose is on Earth. by Chris describing to you, he has given you some insight really as to really the ripple effect his behavior, his approach can have on many. And that is how we work. We work through Chris to get to you. We work through Chris to get to many around him. And there's many of you on the planet at this time that I am really focusing on, even though, as I said, I come through Chris because of his position with me. I did mention that child there earlier on your planet, also in Canada, but we are supporting many of what you would call the collective in various ways, just to help them to understand their greatness.
Mhm. Well,
Mm.
our time is drawing towards an end, but I think my audience would be very disappointed if I didn't ask you this final question. You've
Mm.
been saying you've been working with our government. You want us to get to know you better. I'm wondering, when will you in the physical, along with some of the other civilizations, show up on the planet so that all of humanity sees you? And I guess you'll do this with some kind of timing where the fear level is reasonable for that to happen. But I've been told that 2027 looks like a reasonable time. And I'm wondering from your perspective if that timeline is holding up.
Yes, we have heard of that timeline also, 2027, but also um, just to maybe make you more aware than you are at this time, Peter. We do hope that 2027 is a time where disclosure will happen. Um, as we speak, disclosure is happening in small ways. Um, and this interaction between me and you at this time and Chris is what we would call soft disclosure.
Mhm.
And we take this approach for various reasons, really, just to more or less come in what you would call the back door, really, and to allow many of you at this time to experience what they have experienced as regards to sightings of our ships and communication with many different beings that are connecting with many humans on your planet at this time. And these connections can happen in many ways for many reasons. You are aware of this also. As regards to disclosure, really for the collective, Chris puts it lovely, and he has said this on a few occasions, and he more or less said that, how will I put this? We are not going to land really. We're not going to land on the lawn of the White House, really, and say, yes, we are here. We are your family. It's not going to work that way. Um, if governments at this time accept disclosure, which at this time it's not on the table for negotiation, we have come forward many times with this issue, but a lot of the times it's shot down for various reasons. We won't go into too much detail on that. We will say that you have free will on your planet. How that plays out is entirely up to each individual. We respect that. And I am sure you respect that also. We are so hopeful to come forward for various reasons to allow your family, friends, and anyone that you know or feel has an interest in this discussion to understand that we have always been here. We may not have been visible to you in various ways. You may have seen us in the skies, and you will continue to do so in our craft. And some may sense us, our vibration and frequency on an individual basis around them. Um, so I personally don't like giving dates. 2027 is a hot date at this time, Peter, but I would say this. We will work towards 2027 with the view of government accepting that, yes, it is time for humanity to understand that you are here and you have always been here. There's massive implications behind that. You were aware of some of them. And that is what is being addressed at this time. That is a big issue. It continues to be an issue. It's not going to go away. There's a lot involved on your planet, and they basically have explained that to us um, in various ways over a period of time, let's say. That it's not going to happen, that we are going to remain as we are, and we don't want really humanity to see that we are here, or there's a presence of another race visiting Earth for various reasons. It's difficult to try and um, give a date and stick with that date and say, yes, we can assure you on this date we will come to Earth and we will allow you to connect in many, many ways. If it's a physical connection or if it's just sighting of our ships in the sky. Um, I personally do hope it will happen that way. But as I had said to Chris, because again, he is one that would ask for updates on this also, and I have explained that again, 2027 is a hopeful date. You have been given dates in the past. It hasn't happened for various reasons. I understand that. You may not understand it because you are on a position on Earth where you are wanting, you are connecting in many ways to different extraterrestrial beings, angelic beings, with the whole idea that there's life in the universe and it's ready to introduce themselves to us. So we just have to sit and wait, Peter. I'm happy that you asked that question. You did give 2027 as a date. We will come, hopefully, before that. But in the meantime, we would just have to continue on the path that we're on, which is making people aware, raising their awareness to our presence, connecting with you in various different ways. And hopefully, we can take it to that point where your governments are ready to, may not even introduce us on a physical level, but just making the announcement that there is life there. We are interacting with different races, and we have been for some time. And we need to bring this information forward to you. If that will happen, that would be interesting. But we will not guarantee that at this time, Peter.
Well, I can certainly understand why you can't guarantee it. Maybe I don't understand that fully, but certainly with free will and all the change, everything changing,
Mm,
yeah, pretty hard to pin it down. Renturus, this was wonderful, full of information, insight, and I think our audience is going to enjoy this one. So thank you very much for being here, and we'll have you back shortly if you're willing to perhaps give us
yes.
further video messages.
Yes, of course. Yes, certainly. Yes. This has been really interesting for me, and I'm so happy for Chris that he has reached out to you. We supported him in that, allowing him to understand that we had said to him that everything will open up when it's meant to. And I do feel that his connection to you was really interesting. As he had said to you in your previous conversation, he was drawn to you, and he has allowed this to manifest to this point. Certainly, yes, I do look forward to coming through in this way and communicating with you and a larger audience, Peter, and anyone that has an interest, of course. Yes, I would like to connect with them.
Thank you. All the best. Many blessings.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Mm,
Well, Chris, you just come on back, take your time.
mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that was just full of information. That was really very rich.
Mm,
Thank you.
yeah. Um,
How are you feeling?
well, I knew Renturus was here. He was here before we put the video on at the start of the call. He was aware that I was prepping myself throughout the day. Normally, when I have a session like this, not like this, if a channeling session, or if I'm giving a channeling session, I normally prep myself in advance where I stay local, I stay in the house, I get prepared either through a meditation or just, some crystal work. Um, so um, so yeah, I'm quite really relaxed at the moment. Um, I'm quite happy that Renturus gave you the information there as regards to this call. And again, it's giving you more insight as to who he is. And again, I want to say that I am still getting to know Renturus, even though I connect with him regularly through Jim. He would be my main guide to speak to Renturus on a one-to-one like this. And the problem there, it can't be a problem. Sometimes it gets me down, to be quite honest with you. I'll share something with you. Are we off record at the moment, Peter, or are we still
Well, we're
recording?
carrying on here because I want people to understand how they
Okay.
get in touch with you if they want to do that. Can you
Yeah.
tell us the best way?
Yeah, certainly, Peter. My webpage, I can send to you. The information is on my webpage if people would like to book a session with Renturus, or if they just want a one-on-one session where I would just converse with them in this way. There's two options there on the webpage. Um, the two options Renturus will come through. He will come through just in the conversation we're having in the channeling session. It's a little bit more deeper, but that option is there. So the information is on my webpage. I can send you the link of that.
Sure, please do.
And
And I'll put
yeah,
the link on my links page, and I'll certainly tack it on to the end of this recording. So, Christy, thank you very much for this. This is, well, as I said before, it was very rich, and I think it's the kind of thing that you play it over again a couple months from now, and new insights will kind of take root. Um, I know it's that kind
yeah.
of. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Christy, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, Peter.